Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Wolf with United Nations Capital Development Fund as a digital expert. And welcome to our second in a series of a IDIS webinar, IDIS Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard for Nepal. And this time we're focusing on the third pillar of innovation, and specifically Fintechs. And this is in conjunction with the UN Sustainable Development Goals Week, and then a pre-side event to UNCTAD's event the first week in October as a Nepal event. So this is serving multiple functions as we talk about Fintechs in Nepal. So welcome, everyone. A quick overview of the agenda. First of all, sorry my camera isn't working these days, but you'll get to see all the speakers at least. We'll have a very brief introduction of context of IDIS, and then we'll go through some regional trends. Then we'll dive deep into Fintechs in Nepal with 3 examples, and then look at how do we proliferate the Fintechs and look at more diversified products. And then we'll have a lot more, a good 15 minutes for your question and answer before we have the closing synthesis back with UNCDF. So that's our quick agenda you'll see as we go through. So as a quick introduction to UNCDF, and again, United Nations Capital Development Fund, we work with both the public and the private sector, pardon me, and as a unique hybrid between a development agency and a development finance institution. So we can mix capital investments with technical assistance, market research, and advocacy, again, in the least developed countries. So that's our mandate. And the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard, you can see there will be a link to the full hour-and-a-half session diving deep into that. But as a quick overview, this scored on the inclusiveness and how digital is the economy for Nepal. And Nepal scored a 47% out of 100%. And under their 4 pillars, skills, policy, infrastructure, and innovation. Today, we're looking at the innovation pillar, where the score was 40%. And you can see that it gets broken down by different target groups of people. Again, how well are they included in the digital economy? And there were recommendations that came out, whether policy or infrastructure or in practice. And today, we're focused on the proliferation of Fintechs to provide services that meet diverse needs. That's the subject of today. So that's it for my beginning. We'll start it off with a good set of overview of regional trends from Anil Gupta, who's the partner of digital financial services with Microsave Consulting. So Anil, over to you. And Anil, you're on mute if you know.
Thanks, Chris. I'm sharing my screen. I hope once it is visible, just, yeah, I think it is visible.
Yes, looks good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon from India. I'm Anil from MSc or Microsave Consulting. We are a boutique consulting organization, and we help our partners like banks, telecom players, fintech, governments, so that they can serve the underserved and with the aim of social inclusion and overall growth. I would like to thank the UNCDF team for inviting me to this panel. And let me quickly go into the presentation. So as part of overall fintech trends in Asia, what I have done is that I have divided that into 4 categories, and they are payments, lending, savings, investment, savings and investment, and insurance. So let me first talk about the payment sector. So emerging markets have seen robust growth in payments in recent years, and this has been possible because of 3 fundamental things. They are, one is proliferation of internet services, second is smartphone, and third is development of digital infrastructure. In addition to these 3, what we have also seen is that the cost of acquiring and availing of these services have been falling. And as we all know, fear of contracting the COVID-19 virus has further accelerated remote payments. Thanks to these shifts, there has been robust growth in digital payments. In Indonesia, for example, JP Morgan calculates that third-party payments rose by more than 100% in last 3 years. Lending fintechs, they play a crucial role in bridging the finance gap for small enterprises in Asia. Another exciting BNPL or buy now pay later model, which is talk of the town, is supporting personal credit for the growing low and middle income customers. And if we do some bit of estimation, what we realize is that in 2017, total fintech credit was estimated at around 0.5 trillion. And this is growing by leaps and bounds. And perhaps it is doubling in about 2 to 3 years of the time. There are two exciting parts as it surges. First is that most of the fintech credit is going to small business. We typically call them missing middle in the enterprise segment. And these enterprises, they find it very difficult to get credit from banks due to a variety of reasons. Second, very important part is that slowly fintech credit is becoming economically relevant. Otherwise, as you know, that most of the markets, banks have a complete control on the means to raise and deploy the capital. So this is becoming very important. Third is that in the space of savings and investment, fintechs are building easy to use micro investing solutions for younger and tech-savvy generations. And they are using blockchains, AI, ML, and robo-advisory to make it work for the people. One interesting trend that we see in this space is that in terms of investment. So Asia saw most significant quarter-on-quarter increase in funding during Q1 2021, and they have taken the lead even from North America and Europe. So for example, wealth tech based in Asia, they saw nearly 30 times increase in funding between Q4 20 and Q1 21. And if we see it in North America and Europe, everywhere it is growing. North America, it has grown by more than 5 times, and Europe, it has grown by about 170%. Let us also look at the insurance. Low penetration of insurance in emerging market has been a perennial concern. And penetration rates for Asia Pacific are in the range of about 3.5 to 4.5% for life insurance and around 2 to 3% for non-life insurance. This is considerably lower if we consider the developed market like UK and US. That reports these rates at over 10%. And interestingly, this is changing with the development of customized product, what we call it bite size and session insurance. And as standard of living rise and health insurance concern due to pandemic heightens, we expect demand of insurance product to increase further. Insurers estimate that by 2029, 42% of gross insurance premium would originate from Asia Pacific. And of course, China will be the biggest contributor by around 20%. To tap this demand, we see massive investment in insurance tech, which is going on during the last year of pandemic. And they are thriving with more demand and regulatory support like mandatory insurance provision. This is something that we are seeing in few markets, easier investment rules, and so on. Let us also understand and appreciate that we are at the cusp of change. Fintech platforms in many markets are becoming bigger by the day and are rapidly expanding in related services or adjacent services the way other large technology platforms, say Google or WhatsApp, are trying to do for financial services. Interestingly, one of the US sociologist, Everett Rogers, he pioneered his diffusion of innovation theory. And according to that, what it suggests that when we have around 13 to 14% of the people, those who are called innovators or early adopters, they tend to have higher risk appetite. They are likely to embrace change based on new solutions or services. And once it hits at the early majority mark, which is around 34%, the product is set to get tipping point. And this is where mass market broadly accepts the product. Globally, fintechs, if we see globally fintechs, if we see globally, if we see the fintechs, we see that plenty of markets are reaching tipping point, and they can be a potential threat to the banks. Let me take a couple of examples. Say, for example, China is a leader with Alipay. the largest mobile payment company in the world. And Alipay users can put their money into another of their firm, which is known as UABAO, which is the largest money market fund in India. In China. What they call it, typically the fintech attack has come at a rapid pace, and they are making startups unicorns in a matter of months. So this is how things are disrupting in the market. China's, as I said, China's fintech industry is already beyond the tipping point, and digital insurance in China is led by another existing very interesting player by the name Ping An, and this has partnered with another large players like say Alibaba and Tencent. Similarly, if we see markets like India, we see Paytm and PhonePe, they have become household names in the payment space. So as a country, India also has a potential for further disruption, and segments like say lending can reach a tipping point very soon. I think it will not be complete unless I spend a minute on century's biggest disruption, which happened in 2020. At a broad level, if you look at that, investment activities have shown a slight decline in COVID-19 as investors readjusted their portfolio in the wake of new normal because of COVID. But what we see from the investor perspective, there are three very interesting trends. First, the investors are becoming more selective with their investment as they take into account business adaptability and sustainability in post-COVID scenario. This is leading to readjusting their valuation strategy, and valuations are becoming more and more rational over a period of time. Second, early stage fintech that need funding will have to show sustained positive cash flows to access financing. Additionally, investors are closely looking at risk mitigation measures and growth scenarios before committing additional fund to their existing portfolio companies. This is what I'm calling capital allocation. The third is about the expertise of the founders, more so in the domain that they want to operate. So because of the nature of the fintechs or the domain of the fintech that they are operating in, investors expect to see that some expertise either among the co-founders or through a strategic partnership or through the senior management of the firm. We also see in about say next 5 years that global investors are much more excited about insurtech, digital payments, and digital banking models. And as we all know, cryptocurrency-based startups have started attracting international funds. And recently, we have seen 2-3 major investments over there, whether it was in Hong Kong or Philippine crypto exchange or Coin DCX in India. So some of them, they have really entered the unicorn club. One more thing I want to say that we have seen some decline in investment, but 2021 has started with a very positive note, and we are seeing that better investment days are ahead, and we are seeing more and more traction as we used to see before pandemic hit us. Let me quickly take 2-3 examples. So I have taken 3 case studies. The first case study is from India. This is about Frontier Market. This is a startup based in India, and it is trying to serve rural households in Rajasthan. Rajasthan is on the western side of the country. And they are trying to solve the complex problem of distribution of consumer durables and financial services in deep rural areas. And for that, what they have done is that they have built a rural distribution network for rural women. They call them Sahelis. Saheli is a Hindi word for friends. They have empowered them through training, digital tools, and remuneration. So, and they have built a network of around 10,000 Sahelis. Though through that, what they are trying to do is that they are trying to serve over 1 million households in rural Rajasthan. And for making sure this management is efficient, they have built a robust platform with plenty of data analytics. They are also one of the very few organizations recognized by the state government for doing exemplary work, particularly in COVID times when the entire distribution chain had come to a grinding halt because of the lockdowns. Yeah, so the next one is the PayAgri. This is an agri-tech in India, and they are based in southern part of India, and they are trying to serve small and marginal farmers. They are trying to support farmers in their supply chain so that they can get more remunerative prices and build digital history. So for that, what they have done is they have built a hub and spoke model. They have a decentralized procurement system from the farmers. On the other hand, they have made linkages with the market participants across multiple categories of buyers. This allows them to sell different grades of commodities. To better understand, let me take an example. Say coconut comes in a variety of sizes, and it is difficult to sell the entire lot to one single buyer. First, it is inefficient, and second, it is not remunerative on a gross basis. So what PAGRI has done is that PAGRI does a sorting of coconuts and divide them into what buyers want. For example, the large retailer in India, they want a specific size of 400 to 500 grams, and they are willing to pay a decent price for that. So they sell it to them. For larger size of coconut, they reach out to hotels and the restaurant and they sell it to them. But you also have a smaller size of coconuts, which are less than 400 grams. What they do, they take it to the industry for processing. So this way they are able to support over say 10,000 smallholder farmers, and they have done transactions of nearly 690,000 US dollars over their platform. Let me take the last example. This last example is of Indonesia. There is an organization by the name HARA. This is again a very interesting agri-tech, and they have used a blockchain and they have developed a suite of data acquisition apps that ensure digital storage, decentralized storage and security of agriculture data. It works to make value chain sustainable by connecting smallholder farmers with financial institutions, off-takers, input producers through uses of data. HARA has built an attractive model, and they call it data exchange. They capture the data of farmers that they serve and trade with suppliers of financial and other data. On one hand, it helps serve farmers to access all types of services that they need. And on the other, the service provider can take a decision based on immutable data records of blockchain. Leveraging their data exchange, they serve over 740 villages spread across Indonesia. And so far, they have supported something like 30,000 farmers, and they are able to access around $1 million worth of loan. So with this, I will take a pause and back to Chris.
Thank you very much, Anil. And I forgot to mention that please feel free to write in the chat or the Q&A section about any questions that you have along the way. And again, we're going to have 15 minutes to answer your questions at that time, but feel free to write as we go. So the next section, we're going to move now into Nepal. What are some of the leading examples and what's the future of fintech in Nepal? And we'll have three different speakers. I'll say Mr. Nishal Adhikari, who's the Director of Payment Systems Department at Nepal Rashtra Bank, the central bank. Krishna Bhandari, the CEO of Nepal Digital Payments Company Limited, or you might know it as Namaste Pay. And Roshan Lamishani, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for ESEA. So let's start with Mr. Adhikari at the NRB, where we asked most curiously about the recent exploration into PSPs offering microloans. Over to you, Nishalji.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, so you are interested about the provision in monetary policy on microloans. Am I right?
Yes, that's right. That monetary policy seemed very innovative, and I'd be curious to hear what you were thinking, what you see the potential future for that is, how you might experiment to decide what you want to do with that. It's very exciting work.
Yeah, Chris. But at this very early stage to tell you very, okay. But we are in very early stages of adoption of microloan. All these provisions emanate from all these fintech players who are currently serving in the market. For example, some of our fintech companies are collaborating with banks to provide them with a system so that the banks can offer the customers, the payroll customers, small loans called instant loans based on salary accounts. So all these fintech companies, they approach us and they ask us about our views on micro lending. But let's be frank, we don't have any views yet about offering or giving green light to all these fintech companies to provide micro loan. There may be different scenarios, there may be different modalities on these micro loans. One may be that these fintech companies will be between these banks and customers, and the fintech companies will link the customers with the bank. The another modalities may be that the fintech companies themselves can provide micro lending by getting the digital license of the digital bank. So I yet not clear about the modalities. What our monetary policy tells is we are going to have a study on the subject. Once the study is complete, and then only we'll able to tell you all the modalities, all the procedures, or all the risks that emanate from all these micro lending activities. So, but yes, we are very excited. We are looking forward to go into the new avenues so that we can promote digital lending, digitalization of the financial products in Nepal. That's it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And may I ask, some follow-up questions to, I realize this is very early stage and it's really just an exploration, but what are some of the things you're hoping to learn, and maybe some of the risks you want to feel out or explore through this sort of experiment of trying the PSPs to offer the microloans?
Chris? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I hear you.
Exactly, as I have already mentioned, the one thing that we are looking as a regulator's perspective is we want to digitalize our economy, especially the payment system. And there are institutions already created. We have a robust legal framework in place. So we have already, in my opinion, passed the promotion phase. Now we are in the phase of development so that we can streamline all these products. We can increase the financial inclusion. We can ensure good governance in all these institutions so that all these systems work and securely. Okay. So the basic thing before we move on to this subject is how can we make all these digital transformation secure and healthy. That's also enshrined in our objectives in our act, Nepal Rashtra Bank Act. We look for the stability of the financial sector. So before moving to any new product or new services, we have to look into all these pros and cons of all these new products. For example, what about all those risks from lending? What if all the lending goes to wrong persons? So they are not able to collect all those lendings. So, and how about all those banks who are highly regulated, and all these fintech institutions who are not regulated as extensively as banks? So we have to look after all these issues. And once we have a concrete idea about all those benefits or merits or demerits of all these products, then we move accordingly.
Great, thank you very much, Ms. Shalchi. And one final question, you mentioned before, that there are fintechs that are working with banks to offer lending products. And do you see them being able to work alongside fintechs that aren't working with banks, but that, again, those PSPs? Do you see there's room in the marketplace for both approaches, potentially? Again, if the experiments go well and the research and the study goes well, do you see there's room in the marketplace for both approaches?
Chris, can you repeat the question?
You mentioned before about fintechs that are enabling banks to offer digital credit, and I'm comparing that to the fintechs or the PSPs that could potentially offer microloans on their own. And And if the experiments go well and the research studies go well, do you see room in the marketplace for both of those approaches to be adding more value to Nepal?
Oh, yeah, of course. Look, we do not support an individual institution, as I have already mentioned, because we are regulator. We try to build an ecosystem. It's not about an institution. Yes, there is an institution that take a lead, and that's working with the service providers. But in the future, once the scale is achieved in the market, or the remaining fintech players, they come with the new and innovative ideas or new technologies that is beneficial to the market. So we'll definitely promote everyone in this ecosystem. We are not there to promote a single institutions or to create a monopoly. We like to see many players in the market so that customers have better choices, and also the service providers have better choices. So I think there is room for improvement. There's a room for different players in the market, because market is a competitive market. We are just beginning phase, and there's a lot to achieve. So I think, yes, in the future, Nepal Rashtra Bank likes to see many players in the market. We will not restrict anything or will not promote a single institution. Rather, we like to promote an ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Nishalji. And now we'll turn over to Krishna Bandari, again, the CEO of Namaste Pay. Very exciting opportunities with mobile money that have, again, the potential to reach people who are not on smartphones or not using data, but can still use digitize their cash and make transfers and other services built on those rails. So we would love to hear from you, Krishna ji, your vision for Namaste Pay and what it will do for Nepal. And you're on mute, Krishna ji.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for your wonderful introduction, as well as letting me speak in this panel. It is quite challenging to speak in between a representative of the regulator and the representative of the biggest and the foremost pioneer of the digital financial services in Nepal, Roshanji. Regarding the company that I am working for, it was, as you might know, as many of us might know, it was promoted by the incumbent telco, as well as one of the oldest banks in the country, and it was endorsed by the government as well as a public sector provider. It is not a market intervener. It is an additional player in the market which has a lot of scope to grow and diversify in terms of the coverage of digital financial services, as well as the portfolio of the offerings that we as digital financial service operators can provide to the people. Because Nepal, as you might be aware, is still in the beginning stages of digital transformation, and the financial sector is even behind many other sectors, such as health, education, communication, and so on. So there is a lot of scope in our view of the digital financial transformation in the country. Around a third of, maybe even less than that, around a third or even less than that portion of the overall financial transactions are digital at the moment. And that in itself shows that there is a lot of scope for growth in digital financial sector, a lot of market to explore, a lot of service offerings to design and offer to the market. So that is why Nepal Telecom and RBB decided to create this joint venture, which is carrying the brand name of Namaste Pay, which was unveiled last week, with a very limited range of services. But it will definitely grow over the coming weeks. And we continue to learn from people who have been working in this sector from many years back. For example, the team for which Roshanji works, the team at the central bank who have been instrumental in providing us with the timely feedback and guidelines regarding how to proceed with this particular venture of ours, and many other people who have been working in the digital finances, as well as various digital offerings from online trades to tickets to entertainment to hospitality and so on, so that the overall ecosystem becomes ready to provide the digital services, online commerce, and a payment mechanism to support all that. Mr. Anil Gupta, just before Nishalji talked about various ventures in India, Indonesia, and elsewhere, wherein even grassroots level of the populace, for example, the farmers, small enterprises, and small traders, household producers of goods and services are coming on board for the digital financial services, online trading, and making sure that products get proper market, proper price, and proper exposure so that they can grow as enterprises while riding on the technologies and services provided by digitization and the new information technology. So that is the motto of Namaste Pay as well. We want to explore new markets. We want to reach areas wherein people are not adept at using smartphones or internet connectivity. That is why we debuted with the USSD services. Right now it is limited to only one operator, but I can assure you that it will grow. We are working with the other telco operators, and so far they are very positive regarding working with us in reaching the services to the wide masses and making the digital financial services more reachable to the lower echelons of our population. So this is an effort towards creating a better environment for more financial inclusion, as well as providing a platform for service providers who provide various online and digitized services, and providing them with a secure and easy payment mechanism. It is not that we are the first one. There are people working on this and doing very well. They are kind of a trailblazers for people like us who have shown the way, who have created a lot of awareness among people in terms of how to use digital services, how secure they are, how trustworthy they are, whether you can rely on them for your day-to-day transactions in money, because we tend to be a society wherein cash is the most important thing and most trustworthy thing from the standpoint of a normal consumer. But they have created a scenario wherein even digital wallets or mobile banking services are now beginning to make significant inroads into the minds of the people and their daily economic activities, so that the uptake of these services are on the rise. And this is very pertinent environment, very welcome environment for latecomers like us, because now we don't have to go and educate every person out there about what digital wallet is, how it works, how the transactions happen, whether it is secure or not. We can just point out to a few very reputed names in the market and say that we are like them. We will be as good as them or even better. So it creates a lot of opportunity for latecomers like us. And a while ago, Mr. Adhikari was talking about digital banks, or maybe payments bank, as is the case in India and elsewhere. And if the regulator and national policy framework is ready for these kind of industrial transformation from wallet operator or PSP to a digital bank or a payments bank kind of scenario, then we think that the payment service provider, as they are called right now, can play a significant role in transforming the financial sector as well as banking sector, and give a new vibe towards the financial transactions performed by people as well as the enterprises across the country. So overall, we have just started our services. We have learned a lot from the pioneers and other people working in this sector, not only the digital financial service provider, but also digital salespersons, online traders, ticket sellers, and so on, who have been increasingly adopting the digital means of trade and transactions. And
Krishna, could we start wrapping up your thoughts too for the next person?
Okay, I'll take not more than 30 seconds. What we are focusing on is that keeping learning from these people and trying to find gaps in the market and the service portfolio, and increasing our presence therein, so that while not disturbing the market a lot, not disrupting the market a lot, we are able to create more market for all of us. And we believe that together we can grow, and together we can make the digital transformation happen quicker and in a more sustainable way in the country.
Thank you very much, Krishna ji. We look forward to a promising future there. And let me turn over now to Roshan Lamichani as the Chief Strategy Officer for ESEA. And again, hearing your progress as a preeminent digital wallet.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. I'm Roshan Lamichani, Chief Strategy Officer at ESEA. Thank you, UNCDF, for having me on board for this webinar. Thank you, Mr. Anil Gupta, for very insightful slides to begin with. And thank you, Krishna sir, for having very appreciative words for us. Thank you very much. We have very high regards for you as well. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you and Namaste into the market. So I work for ESEA, a company called ESEA. ESEA is a payment service provider that's been operating since 2009. And it's in fact the largest one operating as of now. For those of you who are not familiar with ESEA, it's your mobile money account that you can operate through your app or any web portal. That's esea.com.np. We have 5 million customers right now, and about 125,000. That's the largest agent network in the country. We have agents everywhere in Nepal, and ESEA is connected to 50 banks and more than 3,000 cooperatives in Nepal. It all started with basic utility payments, P2P transfers, and mobile recharge. But now, as you might already know, you can do anything and everything with it. It is one of the highly used payment app in Nepal, and what has really brought a significant change in this industry is that over the past 2 years, we've introduced a QR-based payment in Nepal, and it has shown a rapid adoption in the market. Also, the ongoing pandemic, has also somehow aided to raise the awareness among the people and merchants. So we strongly believe that the past decade has been really wonderful for digital world. The world has truly gone digital, and digital innovations have touched millions of lives. Especially in Nepal, you can see a lot of digital adoption, especially mobile phones and smartphones as well. This has offered ample space for fintech companies like us to grow and connect to the market. So it is also proven that the innovations around fintech has always something to do to connect large mass of people to enterprises, right? We can see that in terms of usability of accounts, access to finance and everything. Now we have 28 licensed PSP in Nepal, and I think we need a wider scope to grow this business for 28 players. So I would like to also take this opportunity to connect what ESEA is doing to sustainable development goals that is put forth by UN. So I'm not an expert in this, so I'll not talk about it much, but SDG is something that we looked up when it came out in 2016, and it is designed to touch many businesses. And of course, there are multiple goals that we as a company working in technology and financial services can correlate to, especially SDG 8, 9, and 10, right? So, however, I mean, the word fintech has not been properly defined in Nepal. So we as a PSP or any other company as a PSO have been defined as fintech somehow in the market, but there's no specific definition of fintech in any of the regulations that you can find in Nepal. The irony is that the Payment and Settlement Act that came out in 2016, which is the founding regulations for companies like us, have not defined fintech. So many people actually consider fintech to be a PSP or payment company. So I think I would like to thank Mr. Anil for highlighting, I mean, the other parts of fintech that developing countries like ours can really get on with it. So I think there needs to be a clear scope of innovation around fintech, right? Fintech, and to achieve SDG or even other national goals of Nepal, we have to connect bottom and middle of the pyramid, right? I mean, we have to connect a lot of people, SMEs and MSMEs, create employment, and also connect them to a larger capital formation, the entities that create capitals, right? And we really believe that fintech in Nepal are also well positioned to deliver those kind of services. So we like, I mean, it's high time that regulators in Nepal also understand true value, true potential of the network and technology, and initiate policy level changes that would allow fintech to not just operate payment system, but to be a part of bigger ecosystem, and to be more responsible and accountable to bring changes that SDGs and UN has put forth, right? So I mean, it's very encouraging to have the leadership that we have right now at our regulators end. Our governor, Sri Mahaprasad Adhikari, has been very vocative and very has been the forerunner about digital payments. I mean, he's always been advocating about digital payments, and that shows in everything, right? I mean, that shows in the policy level documents, be it monetary policy, the policies that come around, right? Most recently, as initials are also highlighted, the monetary policy, there has been, I mean, it's mentioned that it revolves around digital revolution. It shows the intent of our regulator that they really want to go digital this time around. And that has been most encouraging thing for us, the players like us, like ESEA and many other companies. The fundamental motivation to work better in the industry is that our regulator understand our market very clearly now. So there's a strong desire in our regulator to
Shanti, can you come to closing thoughts too?
Sure. I'm actually closing up. So I think the rightfully, when Chris opened up the conversation about digital lending through cooperatives and microfinance for PSPs, I was really listening to you had my ears, and we're really open to discussions on digital bank, payment bank, and those stuffs. I mean, I think our industry is ready now, and our regulator and our policymakers have to have this kind of discussions more and more, so that we can have clear picture on how we're moving forward. Thank you, UNCDF again, and thank you everyone for listening to me. It's been quite an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roshanji, and for all your work. Let me quickly turn over to Sumit Joshi, the Nepal Private Equity Association's chairman, and he's going to start off this next section about what will it take to get more fintech startups and more diverse products that meet different needs. Over to you, Sumanji.
Thanks, Chris. Namaste, everyone. I'm representing the Nepal Private Equity Association, which has been formed recently by the prominent PVC players in Nepal. We've just been incorporated, and we are working to improve the alternative equity investment climate in Nepal. As a representative of NPEA, I've been asked to speak for about 3 or 4 minutes and present an investor's perspective, so I will stick to my brief. I mean, before I even start, let me take you back to what Anil Gupta of Microsafe said about the regional fintech scenario, and especially the regional heat map that he presented. If you noticed, it's dominated by China, India, and Singapore. Now, if you look closely, these 3 countries offer either a large population or affluence or a bit of both, right? But in case of Nepal, we are neither very large in terms of population, nor are we affluent enough. So challenges for Nepali fintechs are more critical than what you would see in markets like these, where there are more people and people can afford to spend more. So with that backdrop, I will kind of try to draw a picture as to what an investor would look at in a potential fintech investee. The first thing an investor would consider
when taking an investment decision into a fintech is what product is being offered and how is it being monetized and how is it being scaled and scaled quickly. I mean, scaling quickly is the key word here, because any business, if you accept an external investor to be a part of your company, you need to grow faster than you would if you had not taken that investment, because you need to service that investment as well, right? So the scalability part is very, very, very important, and scaling fast is important. So that brings to the key aspect of any fintech business, which is customer acquisition. Basically, what are you doing to acquire customers and acquire them thick and fast? Customer acquisition is such an important piece of a fintech business that over a time, there could be scenarios where it's actually more important than the solution that you're offering, because the use case or the solution that you start off with could evolve over a period of time, and then it could also become obsolete. But if you have a large customer base, you can rapidly evolve in terms of the product offerings as well. So the customer acquisition and customer base, building that customer base very fast is very, very, very important. The other piece, especially in Nepal, that investors would be particularly interested to learn is the data privacy and cybersecurity standards. We have in the past seen a few incidents where data breaches have happened, and those kind of incidents do not make users comfortable. Yes, the payment space, digital payment space has exploded over the last year or two, thanks also to COVID and also due to the proliferation of fintechs and then the banks realizing the need for this. And then, as Roshan mentioned, we have a leadership team at the central bank right now who's actually very keen to push the digital payment agenda. So it has proliferated, but then if you notice the transaction value, I mean, I'm not talking about volume. There are a lot of small transactions happening, but then larger transactions perhaps are not happening as much as we would have liked them to. Is it possible that the lack of confidence or not enough confidence in terms of data privacy and cybersecurity is a reason for that? This is a call I'm making out to all the fintech players out there to consider and really look at it. Having said that, it's not only up for the fintech players to look at, it's also for the banking community to consider. Right. So those are, broad two angles that I would consider. There are many more, but then these are, I think, the big ones that I would consider as an investor on a fintech company. But then there are items that the ecosystem players can look at as well, especially the regulators, the banking community, and maybe even the fintech community can think of stuff like, let's say, there are so many PSPs, 20, 30 PSPs or PSOs, right? And not all of them have adequate customer base. So is there some opportunity for aggregation? I know Nepal Clearing House has come up with an interface called NPI, trying to bring them all together. But then can aggregation happen on the sales side as well, so that there is opportunity for all fintech providers to be considered? Obviously, over a period of time, the merit will keep them or drive them away. The other bit I want to...
If you could use this as your closing thoughts.
Yeah, just a quick point, and then I will close. The other bit I was trying to bring up is the banking community considering an open banking approach, maybe open up their systems for APIs so that as many fintechs as possible can have a crack at it, and they can choose to pick the ones they like. So yeah. In conclusion, I would say that it's from an investor's perspective, the fintech space is very, very, very exciting. But then given the limitations that our country offers, we would like to see fintechs look at these few fundamental points, and also consider a scenario where they can potentially go regional, meaning do you want to do products and services which are Nepal-centric, or do you want to look at a geography outside of Nepal as well? Because technology has no boundary, and you can actually expand as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumanji. Always great talking with you. So let me turn now the last speaker over to who is one of these fintech startups that we want to see succeeding in Nepal. And that's Sonika Mandantir of Alloy Technologies. She's the co-founder and CTO, and I think she'll have some slides to share. Over to you.
Thank you, Chris. I think you can now view my screen, right?
Yes, looks good.
Thank you. I will unfortunately have to keep my video off to avoid any internet disconnection. Sorry about that. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you all today with esteemed speakers, fellow speakers. I'm Sonika Manandar. As Chris said, I'm a co-founder of fintech company, Alloy Technology. So first of all, I'd like you to meet with Sachita. She's an electric minibus driver. So she told us she needed to upgrade her vehicle battery to buy this new lithium-ion battery, right? But the microfinances or the formal banking institutions aren't willing to give her the needed amount. So she asked us, how do I get them to trust me? Even though Sachita has been successfully earning a living by driving an electric minibus called Safa Tempo in Kathmandu, we all know that, for 15 years. But as an informal sector urban micro entrepreneur, she had no income proof or credit history to claim that she can get the finances, right? And another woman we work with is Segal Khale. She's from Bhalchi in Wakut, very rural setting. She also has a business aspirations to become a bee farmer, but has the same problem of lack of access to formal finances. And research indicates that this is a common problem for 245 million micro, small, and medium enterprises globally. Micro entrepreneurs, especially women, often cannot afford access affordable financing because they lack income proof or credit history or legally owned assets for collateral. And this leads to an estimated $8 trillion credit gap. And they cannot grow their business because few trust their business abilities, and the conventional financing system are not working for them. It's really not working for them. Now, how do we build fintech solutions designed for users like Sachita and Segal? This is really an untapped opportunity that we saw. So Alloy's mission is to build fintech solutions, keeping women like Sachita and Segal at the center of our design, and thus help grow this trust using our technology. So what have we built, right? So our solution is a loan insight software for financial institutions. What we do is we help microfinance or the banking institution issue micro business loans digitally, which can only be spent at accredited vendors. And what this does is this makes the traceability of input financing easier and ensures each dollar or rupees invested in the sector is really intended for the business purposes within that sector. So an electric vehicle loan can only buy from electric vehicle vendors, or an agricultural loan can only be spent within agricultural vendors, right? This helps build digital financial footprints, helps de-risk the loans and decrease interest rates in the longer term. That's our theory. We focus on making our product design inclusive to most literacy and technology level. Here we are talking about how to design fintech solutions for the diverse needs, right? So that's what I'm talking about right now. What are the needs of the last mile users like Sachita and Segal, right? So our system can be used from any kind of phone. It provides a real-time fund tracking, minimizes personal purchases using business loans, and really locks in the investment. And our system is really designed to be scalable with simple syntax and easy to use user interface. Really, all phone works with our platform through SMS and an offline app. There's no need for smartphone or mobile data, because while talking with the grassroots user, we found that they find it pretty intimidating to use an app or the smartphone or mobile data. And being in this SMS platform, it makes us easily inclusive and adaptable to different regions. And we saw that microfinance industry still largely relies on pen and paper, and in the rural setting they have very low connectivity, and we are trying to help change that. And to do that, we're also developing an offline app which works without internet, as the data is sent by SMS. We also provide digital financial literacy training for the borrowers, because we believe fintech is not just about finance or just about technology, right? It's also about equipping or empowering the users to tell them how to use it. And currently we are working in two different sectors. One is one is electric vehicle sector. It's an urban setting product. We call it green energy mobility. It's a digital loan product targeting a very unique sector, and the sector that made us Green City Pioneer back in 1990, right? There are 700 of these electric minibuses running around in Kathmandu, and they are mostly owned by women micro entrepreneurs. We are working with Standard Chartered Bank Nepal to providing these kind of loan for EV battery technology. And second is a regrow. It's for the agriculture loan. It's a digital loan product for the agriculture value chain. We are currently in discussion and working with 3 microfinance partners in scaling, trying to scale this in different districts. So what do we envision, right? In 10 years, we really aim to become a blockchain secured big data platform, powering an ecosystem of services for micro enterprises, which can be linked to insurance, maybe subsidy transfers and skills training. We love to call ourselves gender agnostic, sector agnostic, and geography agnostic. So we can really branch out everywhere. And together with our partners that you can see here in our network, we work towards these SDGs. 1, no poverty, SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG 13 with the EVs, right, climate action, and SDG 17, partnership for goals. And what we really believe is Alloy really believes in building a people-centered economy that is powered from the very bottom up. And to reach this goal, our vision is to use technology that we are building to unlock public and private capital, so that each rupees or each dollar of investment really transforms micro entrepreneurs like Sachita and Segal and their business. And with that, I'd love to connect with fellow speakers beyond today's webinar to brainstorm on future collaboration. And if you have any idea how to move forward, I really welcome that. I'll definitely put my email IDs in the chat. Thank you. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Samika ji. And again, for all the panelists, I appreciate the very diverse perspectives that you gave from different aspects of this fintech. So now we'll turn the floor over to those of you participating with questions. And so feel free to write in the chat, and our colleague Francesca will read those out, and we'll either, hopefully you've assigned them to someone, or we will do that for you. But let's start with the Q&A.
Yes, perfect. I hope you can all hear me. So I must say our colleague Roshan from ESEA helped already answering some of the questions that were in the Q&A. So I will start with the questions in the chat first. And so the question is about the credit criteria for PSP microloans. What would this credit criteria be, and would be there a possibility of non-collateralized credit?
And maybe we'll direct that to Nishal ji. If you have a sense of that experiment, what do you think about those criteria?
Thank you very much. It's very hard to answer at this moment, but yes, definitely. There are different departments in Nepal Rashtra Bank that look after all these credit issues. Especially, we are not specialized at credit issues because we are payment system department. But yes, once these PSPs start lending, if and when we allow them, there will be certain questions raised, like how can these PSPs protect their money, or how will they maintain a credit quality? So we have to work with all the stakeholders to talk to them so that we can have a robust credit quality so that once all these non-collateralized lending, there's the question has already put in, these loans will be microloans, and maybe I'm not sure, there may be non-collateralized, but if once we in our study we find that some sort of collateral is necessary, we may ask some sort of collateral, but I'm not sure at this moment. But whatever it is, collateralized or non-collateralized, we will be very tough on credit standards, and we will look after these issues after with extensive stakeholder consultations. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So there is another question. What are the top 3 challenges for fintechs in Nepal to scale up?
Is that question for me?
Yes, if you would like.
So top 3 challenges, I think. The first one, I think, is already Krishna sir also mentioned. I think our customers and potential customers are not digital literate. We've just been introduced with digital payments, right? So it's been just more than a decade, just about a decade. And the security and the awareness at the consumer's end. Okay, what should I do with the accounts? How do I keep my accounts safe and all? Those things are very important, I think. The first thing is that. The second thing is the adoption of the market as well. The market is not ready because this is a new thing. The market, although they're excited for free stuffs. They're not willing to pay. But in order to sustain, in order to survive in the market, the money has to come in, right? There should be some revenue model. And the acceptance from the merchants and let's say the business stakeholders end is not that encouraging. Once the transaction hits certain milestone, they always negotiate you to bring down the rates and all, right? So also most of the services that we offer right these days are free. The P2P transfers are free. Even the bank transfers have very minimal charges, and I mean QR payments are free. So I think the second issue for scalability is that. And the third thing, I think the most important thing is I think we need the capital to we need to have access to capital, right? In order to scale and serve, let's say 10 million people or more than 10 million people, we require a huge capital. And as of now, I mean, most of the companies that are working in PSP and PSO are startups, or let's say they don't have strong source of fund. They're first-gen entrepreneurs. So I think there needs to be some mechanism on funding, maybe foreign or even domestic funding. So those things, I think, I don't know if I answered it correctly. I think 3 things are customer awareness at the customer's end regarding security and all. Second thing is the readiness in stakeholder for survival for the, I mean, revenue model, sustainable revenue model. Third is the capital required to scale up, source of capital required for scaling up.
Thank you so much. Chris, I'm not sure if there is further time allocated for this, but there is some interesting debate in the chat. So if you agree, I can go ahead and maybe ask Anil to come in and reply live.
Yes, please.
Okay, so there was a question in the chat about how important would be initiatives like National Digital ID, electronic KYC, strengthening cybersecurity for the ecosystem to evolve. And Anil G already replied with some inputs, but maybe it's good to hear him live and provide more insights on this. So Anil, the floor is yours.
Sure. So I think it's very important if we really look at the foundations of interoperable payments. So first thing comes from the ID, because you need to identify a person before you can allow any type of transaction or any type of banking transaction to happen in a secure and safe manner. So this is important, but I would also say, because we work in multiple markets, it's not that what probably India has followed is the right model for most of the market, because it is a very cost intensive model wherein you have a centralized database, you have a foundational ID, then you attach a purpose to that foundational ID to use it. So there are different models, there are different types of IDs which are there in the different markets. So definitely we should try, leverage, and to the extent possible, we should use it. Secondly is that once we have the foundational ID, definitely we should be looking at the next layer of it, that how do you basically create a retail payment infrastructure. That is something that we have seen in many markets, including in India. So when I say digital payment highway, it essentially means we need to set out those digital rails on which others can use the services. So typically here the role of government, regulators, and the policymaker, it becomes very important, because no one else would be interested in laying those digital highways. So ultimately the whole idea around payment is to make it more like a utility. So the way you want to open a tap and you want to drink water, so same way there has to be a tap, there has to be a line, a pipeline, wherever those who want to use it, they can basically come, they can do some bit of plumbing, and then they can start, they can let people use it. So that is very important, and I think these are golden principles for it, and probably all markets are heading towards it. That how do we have a large level of interoperability on top of digital infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So there is just one last question about NRB. So will an NRB consider providing fintechs lending license like in Indonesia? I think NRB representative already mentioned that they will do a study first to assess, but if you would like to provide some further detail on this, and then we can close the Q&A.
Sorry, can you ask a question, Francisca, again?
Yes, sure. Will NRB consider providing fintechs lending license like in Indonesia?
Okay. Yes, as I have already mentioned, we haven't made any idea about this yet, but we're up to this. We are planning to have a study about all these mechanisms where we are able to ask PSPs or PSOs to provide a micro lending. Once we realize that it is not possible for all these institutions to provide micro lending without having a digital bank license, then yes, obviously we have to move to that direction. So at this moment, we are looking at the issue, and we feel that it is necessary for the ecosystem to have a digital license like in India or Indonesia. Then yes, definitely we will adopt the international best practices. We are not against all these ideas. What we want to do is we want to move, but very careful movement. Yes, we are, as a regulator, we have to answer to our public, because there are different actors in this panel. So as a regulator, the one question that we have to think is, what if something goes wrong? So this question asks us to go through a very deep scrutiny for all these ideas and talk to the stakeholders. So yes, definitely, we're open to new ideas, but we will follow all the procedures before we move on to the direction. Thank you.
And maybe Francesca, there was one more set of questions that came up around G2P payments, government to person payments. And I wonder if, Nishal, I know that was also mentioned as part of the monetary policy to explore more ways, not only people could be paying the government for different fees or taxes, but also exploring G2P such as Social Security. How do you see fintechs serving in that role?
Yes, I think this is more related with the government than NRB. NRB do not restrict any fintech or any PSP, PSOs to have integration with the government and receive or make payments. It's up to the government to allow other than banks to have a role in social security payment. It's already written in one of our strategies that we will promote the government integration between the government's treasury management system and our RDGS. So we are moving on the direction. But yes, if government regulation allows for fintechs to be involved in social security payment, then we do not have any restrictions in place for such transactions. And I think government is moving, is opening as Roshanji will tell you more about that. So government is doing its part on G2P payment.
So yes, I can second that, and as Nishal sir clearly mentioned, we're working with the government. So we started P2G payments last year, and it's getting good traction. Now the next thing that is on plate is to actually offer G2P payments, and rightly mentioned social security allowances, and we're in close coordination with the government, and hopefully we'll be able to give the good news very soon, pretty soon. So when that happens, all these PSPs and PSOs who are in the market would be eligible to facilitate government on disbursing such kind of payments. Yes.
Great. Well, let me say thank you to everyone and give the final word over to Maria Perdomo, who is the Asia Regional Manager for United Nations Capital Development Fund, to synthesize our chat and express our gratitude to all of the panelists.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. And first of all, thank you. A very warm thank you to every one of the panelists that joined us today. It's always wonderful to learn more about the things that are happening in Nepal. It was very rich. It was a discussion that was very rich in information. And so I don't know if I will do justice in the conclusion and in summarizing, but I hope I will. So it was really, really rich. So first of all, I mean, the eternal question, right? When talking with regulators, and I see this coming a lot as well from Nepal. So basically the eternal dilemma, basically, how can we maintain, right, the stability of the financial sector as we ensure that there's financial inclusion for all, right? And I think that's a dilemma that every single regulator is all the time, right? So how do we make sure that the right regulatory framework is in place so that we can maintain the stability of the system, right? But at the same time, we make sure that we let the market innovate so that we make sure that every single person in Nepal, in the last mile, women, youth, smallholder farmers are really included in that ecosystem. How do we also ensure that clients are protected and make sure that we do not harm where we only intend to do good, right? And I think that in many of these answers or many of these questions, digital could also support the regulator to find some of these answers to these questions. We talked here about, I mean, the need for a national ID, digital ID, or KYC requirements. And so using these digital tools also could ease the work of the regulator to make sure that the financial sector is stable and is also inclusive for all. Then another dilemma that is more coming from the private sector, right? How can we balance scale, sustainability, and impact, right? So how can we make sure that fintechs can reach the necessary scale, right? So that it's profitable also, but at the same time, we are achieving the impact that, for example, Roshan talked about during his intervention of SDGs, right? Achieving those SDGs. How can we reach that scale in a country like Nepal that is quite different from India, for example, or China, where all these very great examples are coming from, right? There were some very good solutions to that, increasing access to capital for fintechs, increasing also, and I believe, or making sure that the products and services that are produced are really client-centric and are really meeting the needs of those that are most left behind. I was really excited to see the examples coming out from ILOE and ESEA, for example, in these regards. Then another thing that I like to highlight is the need for a really conducive ecosystem where innovations can drive, achieve scale, that are sustainable and that can reach also the appropriate impact. I mean, now more than ever, we cannot just act in a vacuum. We really need to make sure that we're working all together so that all these pieces get into place. And it's not any kind of innovation that the one that we want to see here, but also an innovation that is in particular responsive to the challenges that Nepal is facing, right, in order to achieve the SDGs. Finally, and here I'd like to highlight the intervention from the Nepal Private Equity Association from Suman around the potential to go regional. I think regional approaches are indeed needed to maybe be able to achieve that scale. Now, again, we get into other type of challenges at the regional level to make sure that we have harmonizing regulatory frameworks to make sure that that innovation is taking place. But this is why we're here, also to support countries and the region to make sure that we are all together working for a more inclusive digital economy and make sure that it is really contributing to the achievement of the SDGs. So thank you very much to everyone. Thank you for your participation in this webinar, and we look forward to the next occasion or opportunity to engage with all of you. Thank you.
And with that, we will conclude again this side event for UNCTAD's event in early October and the Week of Sustainable Development Goals. And again, for UNCDF's IDIS series, this time on Fintechs. So thank you all. We look forward to partnering together to make these things a reality. And with that, I'll say namaste and bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.